If you want to have success in the college football recruiting process and you're not in the top 700 to 800 guys out of 1.1 million, then you better become a confident businessman who can communicate, who can market, and who can sell. Everybody wants to know, how do I get in front of more coaches? Everyone wants to know, how do I get coaches to watch my tape? The problem with this thinking is that what most people do is they try to do all of these things that don't get you in front of the coaches. They try to look for, what are these certain camps that I can go to that coaches legally aren't even able to go to? Or how do I maybe get someone to do the recruiting process for me? And all of this way of thinking is you're trying to do everything except for the 1, 2, 3 things that absolutely matter. And that's the ability to market yourself, that's the ability to sell, and to close on offers. So here's recruiting. Everyone thinks recruiting is coaches will reach out to me, coaches will find me. If I'm really good and I work really hard in the weight room and I work really hard on the field, coaches will find me. But unfortunately, that's not how it works. There's 1.1 million high school football players, and at every school, there's roughly 12 to 15 coaches, meaning each coach is responsible for recruiting up to 75,000 high school football players. So the mindset of, if I'm good, coaches will find me, you're really gonna miss out on a lot of opportunities. And I hear this all the time. So here's what college football really is. It's a business. You are a businessman. It is no longer, I am trying to earn a scholarship. It's, I am a businessman, okay? And a business is made up of 3 parts. You have marketing, you have sales, and you have the fulfillment of the business. And right now, you're probably like, Richie, where are we going with this? What are we talking about? My goal today is to shift your perspective, is to give you the reality of the recruiting process. I'm gonna share my story. I'm gonna share all the mistakes that I made. And if I could shift your perspective to what the recruiting process actually is today, then I will say my time here was well worth it. But the reality is, 2, 3 of you will actually do the work necessary to put yourself in the position to get the best and most scholarship opportunities. That's just the reality. That's why I said accountability. Marketing, sales, and accountability. So, in a business, you've probably heard the story of the lady or the person that owned a business, and they're a really good baker. And they're the best baker in town. And they bake really good everything. But their business closes because they didn't learn the key components that drive business. It's marketing and sales. It's the same thing as you. Dax, when you go out onto the football field, you go out to the football field and you start playing, you play with confidence, you play with conviction. When you get into the weight room, you're ready to go, you're doing this, right? But when it comes to, let me start sending some emails, let me call a coach, let me send some DMs, where does that confidence go? Where does that conviction go? It's all because we haven't developed the skills of being able to market and to be able to sell yourself, right? And so what happens as a result of this is you experience fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of what people think about you, and you don't do it. You can go on YouTube and learn how to reach out to coaches. It's the execution of it. There's no accountability. If you want to play at the highest level, if you want to get coaches to watch your tape, and you want to move them through the sales process that I'm going to walk you through today, then you've got to be able to execute. You've got to have accountability. Or else you're going to be like every other athlete out there that complains and says, the reason that I didn't get a scholarship is because of the portal. The reason that I didn't get a scholarship is because this guy, this NIL, this opportunity, this. I went to a small school. I'm going to share a video with you later, a kid who did not even play his senior year of high school and signed a letter of intent on a scholarship offer 2 months ago. There is no excuses. It's pure effort. How bad do you want it? And are you willing to develop the skills of being able to market and sell yourself and form the habits of doing the work to get there? The reason you don't do the work, I'm gonna tell you right now, it's straight up because you're worried that what coaches are gonna think about you. You're worried about your friends gonna think. You're gonna post something on Instagram or Twitter that you know you should post, but you're not because you're like, hey, my friends might think this, or I might be bothering coaches, or I don't want to do this. And so I want to share with you a quick story of a coach that came into my life because I really struggled with this a lot, especially when I was younger, and he completely changed my life with this one tool that I'm going to give you right now. I'm in 5th grade and I'm walking through the front door of my house, and both my parents are sitting at the kitchen table, and my dad says, come and sit down. So I go and sit down. It's this old wood rickety table, and my mom was sitting there and there were tears in her eyes, and I knew something was wrong. And my dad said, your mom and I were getting a divorce. And I remember getting up from that table and just feeling empty, feeling like kind of hopeless. And I walked into my classroom not much longer after that, and I was really struggling in school. And I walked into the classroom, my teacher said, Richie, go stand outside. So I went and I stood outside, and she said, I've been trying to tell you all year that if you don't make a change, you're going to fail. And I reviewed your grades with the principal this morning, and you failed. And I walked out of the classroom that day, and not only did I feel empty and hopeless, but I felt depressed. And I don't share this story often with many, but I really didn't even know why I was here anymore. And the only thing that I loved to do, which was play football, I wasn't very good at. Played receiver, and I had trouble catching the ball, and as you know, that's an issue. And one practice, this coach asked me a question that changed my whole entire life. I dropped another pass, and a coach by the name of Mike Jallad came up to me, and he said, Richie, what are you thinking about when the ball's in the air? And I said, you know, I'm thinking about the last pass I dropped, or I'm thinking about what's my dad going to think about me, or what's my friends going to think about me. And I thought about, what if I actually catch the ball and I don't know what to freaking do with it? And he goes, Richie, I watch you get here early. I watch you buy new gloves and new cleats and do all of these things. He goes, but until you focus on that ball in front of you, you're never going to catch it. And then he asked me the question that changed everything. He said, Richie, what's the most important play now? And I was frustrated and I was mad. He nudged me and he goes, the next play. And I stood up and he goes, what are you going to do differently this time? Well, I said, well, I guess when the ball's thrown at me, I'll catch it with my hands instead of letting it get into my body. And he goes, okay, well, how are you going to do that? I said, well, I'm going to put my hands out like this. And he grabbed my hands and he goes, no, you're going to put them like this. And he says, when are you going to do that by? I said, I guess the next time the ball's in the air. And so I went back to the huddle, and all of a sudden I started to feel better. I started to realize, wow, maybe the last play didn't matter. And maybe like what my dad thought, or what my parents or friends thought, or what all these coaches thought really didn't matter. And so I went out, and the next play, and all of a sudden the only thing I focused on was that ball in the air, and boom, I caught it. And then I caught the next one, and the next one. I realized when I was running a route, the only thing that mattered was running the route, and then once I ran the route was catching the ball, and once I caught the ball, it was making the first guy miss, and then the second guy miss. And I was a D and an F student. All of a sudden, I started using this mentality of every time something got hard, every time I failed, every time something didn't work out, it was, what's the most important play? Next play. And I was a D and an F student, and I never got a D and an F again. And every time this coach watched me struggle, it was always, what's the most important play? Next play. Boom. Anytime any player on the field didn't make a good play, next play, let's go. Or a player made a good play, next play, let's go. Boom. And all of a sudden, this coach created this culture of never failing. And it became this thing where there is no failure, there's only your next play. And I share this story with you right now because a lot of you aren't doing the things that you're supposed to be doing to get recruited because you're worried about failing, you're worried what people think, you're worried about rejection, instead of focusing on the next play in front of you because nothing else matters. And ask your parents, in 10 years from now, nobody will care about what anybody thought right now in your life, except for you. And you walked away from the greatest opportunity of your life, which is to play college football. Right now. I can tell you the experience walking into an SEC facility, running out of the tunnel in front of 102,000 people at Alabama. I'm telling you, it is the greatest experience. And one that I hope every single one of you can have. But it's not the tactical. It's not what DMs to send. It's not what to say on the phone calls. It's not that. The only thing that's holding you back right now is the fact that you're not focused on the most important things in front of you. Instead, it's the past, it's this thing, it's this. I sent one email, this coach didn't answer. What if I really go all in on this and I don't get a scholarship? What are my parents gonna think? What is it? None of that matters. The only thing that matters is the next DM that you're gonna send. Is when you leave here today, are you gonna send an email? Are you gonna reach out to a coach? I'm a 27 guy. Am I gonna send the email? And you do it one at a time. Are you gonna be good at it in the beginning? Yes or no? No. But the fact is you're gonna do it. And if you do it, you're already separating yourself from 99% of the other people out there. And I already know I'm not speaking to a room of a bunch of ESPN 300 guys, right? Because you would have concrete offers. You're like me. You have to do it the hard way, right? Which is cool. This is gonna develop you into a man, into a businessman, because that's what you gotta be, right? One thing I promise all of you, I will not fluff you. I will not tell you there are things that you can do that's just not gonna happen. I'm gonna always be real with you. If you wanna have success in the college football recruiting process and you're not in the top 700 to 800 guys out of 1.1 million, then you better become a confident businessman who can communicate, who can market, and who can sell.